Hello to my lovely faefolk. Would you believe me if I said that Rainbow Dash ends up losing her flight after the end of Generation 4 of My Little Pony? Well, at first, I wouldn't believe me either, but after diving deeper into the My Little Pony Generation 5 comics, I was simply shocked and devastated to see the turn that Rainbow Dash's story took. Quick note before we get started as well, about my cosplay. As you can probably tell, I'm Rainbow Dash, and I was trying to go for her Grand Galloping Gala look, but with a twist. I really liked the way that Rarity went with her dress, how it was sort of a cloud outline on the end of the dress, and then of course we have the rainbow for the bulk of the dress. And it reminded me of a sonic rain boom. So I was like, what if I try and turn a sonic rain boom into a dress? So that's exactly what I did. I tried to keep the cloud aspect, so lots of poof, with of course some sky blue, and then this underskirt for the rainbow of course, and then this part again underneath for some extra cloud poof. And then I thought these red tights would just give it the right amount of pop. So if you think I captured the sonic rain boom well, let me know in the comments. Now you may already know the devastating turn that Discord's story took after the end of Generation 4 if you watched my Fluttercord video. If you haven't, I'll put the link somewhere up here and you can watch it after this one if you're interested. Now you're probably confused as how Rainbow could even lose her ability to fly, as this really doesn't seem the direction her story would go. But we do find out this information in Generation 5. Of course it's Generation 5. It's always Generation 5! Comic called The Storm of Zephyr Heights, taking place over 3 issues. Now just some quick background information on Generation 5. We have our main characters in this comic, Sunny, Hitch, Izzy, Misty, and the princesses of Zephyr Heights, Zip and Pip. Now don't be put off by them because we need them to get to the information on Rainbow Dash. We open with Zip complaining to her mom, the Queen, about her going on vacation. Zip says that since she's the Queen, she doesn't take vacations. What? Huh? That's honestly crazy in itself. I mean, even if she is the Queen, I feel like she should still be able to have vacations occasionally. I feel like the even crazier thing though is that statement coming from her own daughter. Apparently though, she's taken a quote-unquote vacation in the past when Zip and Pip were fillies, where all she did was take a long bath, but the government almost fully collapsed, which is absolutely insane. This must mean it's not a very good government at all if the Queen can't even take a bath. What has she been doing for all these years? Has she not showered? Has she not taken baths? What has she been doing? By the way the Queen responds, it seems like she hasn't even thought of who she's going to appoint to take over for her for the week, which is once again a horrible way to govern. She should have been thinking about this ahead of time. She thinks for a second about who could hold the kingdom together and drops her crown on Zip, determining that she's the one who's fit to rule for the week since she's going to be queen one day. Now I suppose that this could be good practice, but to just spring this on her with seemingly barely any training is insane. Zip is freaking out because this is a surprise to her. Luckily, her mom at least called in her friends to help her out. It seems like her friends had helped plan this, so maybe her mom did coordinate with her friends and she actually did know who she was going to appoint and just made it seem like she didn't know to Zip. But still, to just spring it on Zip with no preparation, I'm not a fan. Zip comes around though and agrees that her mom deserves a break, and her friends can handle anything that come their way, but still, I think her mom should have let her know that this was coming. Zip starts her queen duties and is just doing some paperwork, so her friends go off and they eventually make their way to the royal library. Sunny gets deep into some books, and I just want to point out some of the titles. We have Love at Twilight, Unicorn of Odd, The Return of Queen Chrysalis, and Little Fillies. I do appreciate that they have these little Easter eggs even in the G5 comics. I also have to point out that on the next panel we see Pip showing Izzy her mom's craft room, and at the very top shelf there's something called Hyperactivated Super Pony Glitter. Did Pinky invent this? Zip eventually makes her way to the library and starts talking to Sunny about an old station that hadn't been used in years, with a poster of the Wonderbolts appearing in Zip's memory. She doesn't say anything outright about the Wonderbolts though, because it doesn't seem like she knows who or what they were, which is just sad that they seem to have been forgotten. Sunny goes on to inquire about the Pegasi history books from Twilight's time time because many of them seem to be missing. Zip says that no pony knows. All they know is the Pegasi live somewhere else before Zephyr Heights, which we all know is Cloudsdale. Apparently, Cloudsdale's faded away to just be an old mare's tale, with many ponies not even believing it exists, which is just so sad and devastating. Truly just a stab in the heart. However, once they all leave, they're very confused because it's snowing, but it's supposed to be sunny. They rush to the castle to see what's wrong, and a storm unlike any they had ever seen descended upon them, causing them to conclude that every pony needs to evacuate the city. Moving on to issue 2. As the main 6 ponies are trying to evacuate every pony, Misty comes to the conclusion that the storm must be magical, because there's a wall of wind that no pony can get through at the edge of it. They decide they need something like a boat for the air to be able to evacuate every pony, so an airship basically. They find one, and Izzy, Hitch, and Misty start work on trying to fix it, while Pip, Zip, and Sunny go back out into the storm to try and get through it. However, the storm is so strong that they decide they need to fly above it to be able to get past. They eventually fly so high that they make their way to Cloudsdale. The ponies are astounded that it's actually real, but just like Canterlot as we saw in my Fluttercord video, it's abandoned as well. But the difference with Cloudsdale is it looks like the ponies just left it yesterday. Since it's up in the clouds and essentially the base for making the weather, there's no worries about it getting weathered. They eventually come across this creature called Arkansani, which are essentially flying porcupine boars. They find a conveniently displayed list of do's and don'ts regarding them, and one of the don'ts is don't flash bright lights at them. But of course, Pip just has to take a picture with one of them. Full flash on, even though it's daytime. But that turns it very angry, obviously. More and more of these creatures start chasing the ponies, so it seems like they've infested Cloudsdale. They make their way into a building for shelter, and it turns out to be the library, which has a lot of Pegasi history. Zip starts talking about how she imagined Cloudsdale. We see Spitfire, the Wonderbolts, Rainbow Dash of course, Derpy, and Bulk Biceps. A computer gets turned on with the hologram of Flash Magnus. One of the pillars of Old Equestria pops up, revealing how he's there to answer every pony's questions about the history of Cloudsdale. He reveals that Pegasi started living in elevated areas like mountain ranges. Cloudsdale was eventually created to be a hub for creating weather and then getting it from place to place, being shaped by the 7 great cities of Pegasi. It keeps it always sunny in Philadelphia. Zip looks out the window to see the weather factory on Cloudsdale is producing the storm. Flash Magnus goes on though, revealing that there's a mixture of things that's needed to keep the factory running, and without magic, Pegasi know that it would be impossible to control. So with this information, the ponies conclude that they need to shut down the machine. Finally, onto the last issue, issue 3, where the bulk of the information on Rainbow Dash is. The flying porcupines eventually leave, so the ponies can leave the library. Zip goes off and finds a lightning bird on the weather machine, but is eventually able to get it off and shut off the lever. However, the storm has become so big it's still going. Their balloon with every pony being evacuated in it is flying up, but it's getting off course, and it's going to crash into Cloudsdale if the ponies don't do something. Zip has an idea and goes to the Wonderbolt Hall of Fame. We see her, Pip, and Sunny walking through, and there's a lot of cool Easter eggs, like a Shadow Bolt costume. Zip screams out that all she wants to know is who the Wonderbolts are, and we hear a voice say, "That's a very cool question, but I'll bet you the answer is at least 20% cooler," and a hologram of Rainbow Dash flies across the panel. Finally, we get some Rainbow Dash. The ponies are all freaking out over this. Honestly, their facial expressions on this panel are absolutely insane, but honestly well deserved after seeing a hologram of the Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash then starts talking about her time as a Wonderbolt. She wanted to be one from the very first time she saw them, and eventually she made it. She became the commander of the Wonderbolts, and opened the Hall of Fame that they're standing in now. A long time ago, the Earth Unicorn Pegasi Guard was created to protect the princesses and keep the peace, which included the Wonderbolts. They protect Equestria and deliver messages at the speed of light, while even controlling the weather. Zip interjects and says that she wants to know about the controlling the weather part, and Rainbow says that she can tell her more about that. Any Pegasus with enough speed can help control the weather, but the Wonderbolts are the best at it. Earth ponies and unicorns fall through clouds, but Pegasi can interact with clouds like sleeping on them, riding on them, and walking on them. And this panel is absolutely amazing. We see Applejack and Rarity falling through the clouds, while Fluttershy is sleeping so cutely and peacefully. Rainbow then goes on to talk about cloud bursting, which is what it sounds like. You burst the clouds by bursting through them. Clouds are a solid to Pegasi, so since they don't just fall through when they do a cloud burst, they have to concentrate and hit them forcefully. Zip takes that as what she needs to be able to defeat the storm, and so she takes one of the uniforms from the display, which there's a cute little note that says, Replica uniforms on sale, no need to take this one, which is a cute little touch. Eventually the airship gets hit with lightning though, and it starts going down. Zip is actually able to perform a sonic rain boom to get there in time, and they're able to settle down the air balloon on the ground. The storm ends up passing through, and they anchor Cloudsdale to the ground. Zip goes back to the museum again. We see a giant statue of Rainbow Dash, as there should be, of course. Zip is trying to learn more about the sonic rain boom that she performed. And here's what you've all been waiting for. We get the most heartbreaking message from Rainbow Dash, the last message that was left on video at the museum, and this hurts. We see Rainbow, older like in the G4 finale. Now this is very reminiscent of the message that Fluttershy left Discord, but it's like Rainbow recorded it for her ability and love to fly. But Rainbow says, "I don't know why I'm doing this. This is silly. It's just this place. The Wonderbolts. This was my whole life for years. These days I spend more time at Sweet Apple Acres than here," which, side note, is so cute, but sadly that's pretty much the only good part. So saddle up. She goes on, "But this still hurts. Twilight is sealing all the magic today, which means I'm gonna lose my flight, and I don't know how I can live with that." And girl, I don't know how I can live with that either. You're telling me Rainbow Dash is not going to be able to fly anymore? Rainbow Dash loses her flight after the end of G4. Is that not the most absolutely insane and devastating thing you've ever heard? This is not how things should be at all. Rainbow continues, "It's not just magic to me. It's freedom. It's who I am. It's my home here on Cloudsdale. It's my life as a Wonderbolt. What does it mean to be a Pegasus if your wings don't work?" Which, side note on this, Scootaloo's wings don't work, and she's as much of a Pegasus as any other. But I know that Rainbow didn't mean it in a negative way towards her. I'm going to give her a pass because this is obviously an incredibly emotional time for her. We don't know what will happen to Cloudsdale when the magic goes away, but I do know that someday the magic will be back. So I'm recording this message for the next Pegasi who can fly, the next Pegasi who finds this city, this museum. It's your turn now. Bring back the Wonderbolts. You don't have to call them that, but what we did was important. The world needs us. Whoever you are, it's your turn to be awesome. Now, after getting this absolutely heart-wrenching, soul-crushing, devastating message, where you can truly see the pain in Rainbow Dash's eyes, I mean, she literally has a tear streaming down her face at one point. The last panel we see is Zip with a smug little grin and a wink, telling Pip, "Okay, I think I can handle that." Huh? Did you not just watch the same message that I did? Are you not taken aback and devastated by what you just saw? This just feels like horrible decision making. I'm definitely someone who likes sad and darker stories at times, but this is just not fitting for My Little Pony. There really should have just been a whole rework done for G5 and just not have it be connected to G4, because this is just... I have no words. Actually, I have a lot of words, but for the fans that grew up with these characters and for the story of My Little Pony, friendship is magic. At the end, you need to be able to go off and say that they lived happily ever after. Not, oh, Twilight had to go seal off the magic. And now Rainbow Dash can't do the thing that she was most passionate about anymore. Literally fly. Flying is a part of what made Rainbow Dash who she is. And maybe people will say, oh, there's no such thing as happily ever after. It needs to be realistic. Like I've said before, why does My Magical Pony Show need to be realistic? Can we not just have this story all nice, tied in a bow, and say that the ponies did live happily ever after? Because that's honestly all I want for them. Now, there is that whole discussion of Twilight's an alicorn. Would she outlive her friends? I can't get into that today. That would take way too long. But if you want me to go over that, I definitely will. But honestly, this just piles on top of that and just makes everything worse. This comic and the comic covering Discord in G5 are honestly some of the most devastating things to have come out of My Little Pony Generation 5 so far. I'm all for expanding on stories and such, and I have so many ideas that could have happened for G5 that actually did include G4. But for My Little Pony, I feel like the way that Generation 5 has gone is just not the right direction for My Little Pony. And I say this with all the love in the world for My Little Pony. I love it so much, and I really do want it to keep being good and capture that magic it has for so many years. Now, of course, I know that there are so many wonderful, talented people working on this. But like I said, I just feel like there were other ways that it could have gone, and other ways that maybe it should have gone. But let me know what you all think. How do you feel about Rainbow Dash literally losing her ability to fly, and seemingly never getting it back after that moment? Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to let me know anything My Little Pony and any other shows, movies, toys, or anything else you'd like to see from me in the comments. If you would like to become 20% cooler and part of the faefolk too, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And always remember, I lovely you.
First you see me riding on a sonic boom, got my guitar shredding up my latest tune. There's nothing you can do to beat me. I'm so good that you can't defeat me. Yeah, I'm awesome. Take caution. Watch out for me. I'm awesome as I wanna be. I'm awesome. Take caution. Watch out for me. I'm awesome as I wanna be.